Hey guys, I have a lot of new people, no new followers, so I just want to start this video by introducing myself. My name is Alyssa. I am the face behind Raw Recovery Talk. Um, Thank you for following. Please check me out on YouTube. I have a bunch of videos by me, and then I have some videos by other people who've shared their stories. I just want to ask for you guys, if you want to share your story, to reach out to me. You can DM me on Instagram, or you can email me at rawrecoverytalk@gmail.com. You can share anything you want. Personally, I like to share videos because then people can see and hear people's stories, but I've also taken written word and journal entries, stuff like that. Okay, so first, I just look. I have a cup of coffee, very large, but it's a cup of coffee. I'm outside. It's like 8 o'clock, but it's still light. Very hot. It's like very muggy, kind of gross. I just took a shower and now I'm sitting outside and I'm like, I need another shower. But I feel like it's too nice to not be outside. Okay, so before we start, I'm wearing my foot recovery shirt. Ask me about my recovery. I sell these shirts, $20. If you order more than one, you get a discount for that. Shipping is included. I have a bunch of different shirts. Like for me, I have this one, and then I have I talk for awareness, and then I have another one that says I talk to end stigma. If you go on my Instagram, I have a few templates that I have. And I mean, I can custom order. I made I talk for Nikki, which if you go into the Instagram post, you'll see somebody, it was a custom order. And the whole point behind that, so okay, it's Raw Recovery Talk, right? So all right, so I'm gonna start from the beginning. So I've been going back and forth as to whether I'm gonna make this video. And a couple of the videos that I've made in the past, like I've kind of discussed it, but I feel like with all the new people that I have, new followers, it's time that I make this video. So I've been working in the field. So right now I have a master's in addiction counseling, and I think I graduated in 2014, either 2013 or 2014. But I've been working in the field of addiction since 2012. It's been like 7 years. Either this month or last month was 7 years that I'm working in the field. But if you've seen my videos or if you've followed my page, I have 5.5 years clean now. So, little backstory. When I got clean the first time, I got clean because there was like one too many times that like people have said like, oh, don't you think you drink too much? Don't you think you smoke too much? Like, don't you think you party a little bit too much? And I was like, no, because like I would use a lot by myself or like with my friends, so I didn't think that it was a problem. But my ex-husband, who was just my boyfriend at the time, he had said like, oh, well, I bet you can. And I was just like, oh, I'll show you. So I got clean. But in the midst of our divorce, which was in 2013, I relapsed. I was already working in the field. I wasn't being paid. I was an intern. So I was still in school at the time, and I was interning on a program. It was an outpatient program, and I relapsed. And it was like, I'm not gonna say it's not bad. Like, I feel like when people relapse, it's easy for them to kind of like downplay it and be like, oh, wasn't that bad? Like, it was bad, and it could have gotten really bad. It could have gotten to a point where like I was going to school, or went to school for this, and I could have just absolutely lost everything, and who knows what I would have done. But I was surrounded by some really non-judgmental people. The first place that I worked at, almost all of us were in recovery, so it was easy for them to kind of just take me to the side and be like, look, we know what's going on. We're not going to judge you. Like, just do what you need to do. You don't want to have your whole future, your career be impacted. So I really took that to heart. I took some time, and January 1st, 2014, I got clean. Like really, like nothing, no alcohol, no weed, no pills since then. So it's been 5.5 years. But like I said, in two, I think it was like so 2010 I graduated with a bachelor's in psychology and sociology, and then moving forward, I wasn't sure what I was gonna do. I was using a lot at that time. I was smoking like almost every single day, drinking every day, whatever. And I got a phone call, and it was like from my loans, because I got private loans to go to school. Big mistake. Don't do it. Just do yourself a favor. Don't do it. Get federal, and if you can't pay for out of pocket something, it's private loans are terrible. They completely manipulated me, and now I feel like I'll be in forever debt. But so I had my my loans coming up, and they said, what we can do is we can either charge you this ridiculous amount. Like I was working, it was like at a store, and what they were asking was like 3 checks. And I said, and what am I going to do? How am I going to live? I have to drive, I have to do this, that. And they said, well, you can go back to school. If you go back to school, then we're going to defer it. So I said, okay. So, I thought about it, and I said, what do I want to do? So with my bachelor's in psychology and sociology, I was like, it just makes sense for me to continue. Like I knew I wanted to work with people. I knew I wanted to help people. So I saw an ad. For a school, and I called up. They gave the number. They said, call up to get more information. So I was on the phone with somebody. They were very nice, giving me a bunch of information. I said, this is what I think I want to do. It was counseling. So they said, okay, yeah, you can do that. But is there anything that you have more of a focus on? We have this, and that. And one of the things was addiction. Like, so I don't even know. It had like a different name then. And I said, well, like I did when I was getting my degree, undergrad. My school had a drug and alcohol class. It was like a health and professional science or something like that. So I took that class, and I loved that class. Like, loved that class. We had to go to a meeting. We did a lot of research on drugs, and like it was so crazy to me because everybody in the class was using. Like, we didn't take that class because we wanted to be educated, because this is what we wanted to do with our lives. We all took the class because we were all using in some way. But it just really stuck in my head. From there on, every single paper throughout my undergraduate career was being written on drugs. Like, I took a family course. It was, the way that drugs impact the family. I took an adolescent course, the adolescent substance use. It was a lot of that. So when they said drug addiction, whatever, counseling, I was like, oh, that's perfect. So that's when I had started. And then, my ex-husband, who was my ex-boyfriend, or boyfriend at the time, whatever, he was questioning my use, and then I got clean. So then I went to school, got my master's, and the master's in addiction counseling is very science-based. It's a master's in science, so it's not in the arts. It was a lot of papers, it was a lot of research, but it was also a lot of me understanding what it is that substances do and all stuff like that. So I was like super excited. So they said it was a practicum, I guess they called it, and they said you have to find somewhere to work. So I started calling up places, and I said, I want to do an internship. They said, give us the information, come in for an interview. So I went in for an interview, met the assistant director, and he's the one who offered me the job. And like I said, the first place I worked for, I'm gonna say like 70% of us were recovering addicts. So in New York, which is where I live, it's not a licensed clinician, it's a credentialed clinician. So it's like like they have like recovery coaches now, or recovery advocates or whatever. So they're kind of like here, like they're not somebody who's not educated, but they're like down here. And then there's a credentialing, which is like here. And then there's a licensure, which it goes up from there. So it's like licensed mental health, a psychologist, and then there's licensed clinical social worker, LCSW. No, LMSW is the licensed master social work, and then LCSW and LCSW also kind of goes up from there. And then there's psychiatrist. So I had no idea, going into this field. I was like, it's gonna be so awesome. I'm gonna have all this experience, and I have like lived experience, and I have school, and it's just gonna be so great. So I did my first job, and I don't know, they call them green, I was green. I was like, I'm educated, I know this, that, whatever. So I ended up leaving that job for another job. And it ended up being kind of like the same thing, except there was like no support. My first job, there was a lot of support because we all went through what it is that we went through. The second job, it was me and like some other person, like one other person who was in recovery, so the support wasn't there. I ended up leaving that job for another job, and that was a methadone clinic that I thought it was going to be amazing, because where I live in Staten Island, almost everybody is using opiates. So that, that's what I'm gonna say, that was my specialty. Like, I knew how to work with people who were addicted to opiates. I understood. I had taken pills, so I got it. A lot of people that I grew up with, a lot of people around. So I was like, this is what I need to do. So I went and I worked at the methadone clinic. Did not work out for me. I was there for a few months. If you go into one of my other videos, you'll see what happened there. So essentially it was kind of like, why did I get this degree? People aren't looking at me. They're not taking me seriously. They're just kind of like, oh, you're a KSAC, right? So that's what it's called. Oh, you're a KSAC. You're not a licensed clinician. You didn't take a test, so you don't deserve the same amount of money. And like, it is what it is, because I know a lot of people say, oh, but they just want your money. I'm gonna be honest, for people who are going into this field, if you're not licensed, you're not going to be making a lot of money. You really are not going to be making a lot of money. And even when you are licensed, like, they really try and lowball you because, I don't know, because they know that they can. Because if you have 5 years of experience, they'll find somebody who has 5 months of experience, and they'll pay two of them what it is that they could pay somebody that has 5 or 10 years experience. So it was just like, I didn't think that I was better than anybody. I didn't think that I deserved more money than anybody, but it was like all this time and all this effort that I put into schooling, and personally what it is that I put into it, I was like, I just kind of want to have enough so that I can live, pay back my loans, and like, go out, go to the movies. Like, it's so hard to go to the movies when I have these crazy loans. So I just kept on like jumping from place to place. So in total, in the 7 years, now I'm not working in the addiction field anymore. I work as a case planner. So I work not for, but I work with ACS. So what I do is, like, I still work with people who have substance use, and I work with people who have mental health issues, but I'm not working directly. It's not clinical. What I do is like, and they call it casework. So it's like, I go into the home, I go into the schools, I talk to the families, I talk to mental health counselors, I speak to therapists that work with the family. So I'm kind of that like middleman, and that, after everything that I've gone through, is exactly where I need to be, and that is what I want this video to be about. So sorry, I don't barking at another. Hey. Sorry. So hey. Hey, come here. So I'll just talk louder because they're not gonna stop. So after years of working in this field, it got to the point where I could no longer take it. Like, I could no longer just sit back and say, I did all this schooling, and I, put so much on the line for myself to just be looked at like that, like, people didn't care. They did not care what it is that I went through. They didn't care that I was in recovery. And then I essentially was, at one point I was on the other end where these people were, where my clients were, like, and I took that very seriously. I said, when they look at me, knowing that I'm in recovery, however long that it is that I'm in recovery, like, they can see themselves. They may not say, like, I want to be a therapist, because a lot of them didn't like therapists. A lot of my clients were like, I don't like you, I don't like what you do, I don't like your organization. And they was like, I get it, like, I don't like what I do, I don't like my organization, but I couldn't tell them that. But it was just like, I'm gonna do everything I can. But the reason why I want to do this video is so that you guys understand what it is that I've gone through, and why I personally cannot continue to work in the field. I wanted so badly to be able to sit and give back what it is that I felt like I never got, because I went to therapy for years. I tried to get clean on my own for years. I tried to get clean with help for years, and I felt like I was never able to get it. So I told myself, you know what, I'm gonna be that clinician. I'm gonna be that therapist that people are gonna go to, and they're gonna love them, they're gonna do this and do that, whatever. And the thing is that eventually, maybe it could have been, but it was too much. It was too much of people breaking me down and putting me down for what it is that I experienced, and the fact that that was what I wanted to do. Um, so, um, you know, like I said, when I started, it was a credential and nobody really explained it to me. I don't think I would have taken it if anybody would have told me, like, you're only going to be credentialed, you're not going to be licensed. I would have been like, whatever, who cares? It is what it is. But I wish that I would have taken it more seriously, because I would work, mind you, I have worked at an outpatient, just a regular outpatient, right? Then I went to a MICA outpatient, which is a mentally ill, chemically abusing. So it's like people who have mental illness that use kind of to help them feel a little bit better about their mental health. So I did that, and that was intensive. Then I went to the methadone clinic, and then from there I went to another outpatient where they had MICA, but MICA was run by mental health clinicians, and then they had the regular intensive for substance use. And then from there I left there and I went, where did I go from there? Oh, and then I went to like a sober house, but it wasn't like a normal sober house. It was like a sober house for like famous people and rich people. And that, besides this job right now, that was like my favorite job. Not because it was like famous and rich, like it is what it is. Guess what? If you're an addict, you're an addict. Whether you're famous or rich, it does not matter. Some of the craziest stuff I saw was in that house. But the reason why I liked working that job so much was because I was there. Like I was, like they would come in under the influence and I would be the first person that they would have to talk to. I would have to sit with them. I would be with them for hours. You know, we would separate them if they were under the influence because they couldn't be around the rest of the people. I was doing sober coaching, which is like, I don't know, some people don't really care for sober coaching, but I liked it personally because that was the first job where I was able to go in and like share my actual experience and my story and have people look up to me, rather than being like, no, you can't, you know, you can't, be quiet because you can't share that. Anyway, so from there, as much as I loved that job, I had to leave. And then from there I went to it was, what would they call it, like a resource center. So it's like if you wanted to get help, you wanted a detox, you wanted a rehab, you wanted an outpatient, you would come in, we would do an intake, and then we would refer you out. And we had sober coaches there. So then I mean, I wouldn't consider it to be clinical, but they say, you know, we were therapists, whatever. Then from there I went and I did intake somewhere else that was like very, very short. And then I came to where I'm at now. So where I'm at now, like everybody knows that I am not clinical. I do not want to do clinical work. Don't ask. Like they asked me about addiction questions. You know, where can I send this person for detox? Do you know any places in this area for rehabs? You know, such and such person tested positive. Can you take a look at the test? Do you think that this urine was real? Blah, 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 whatever. That I have no problem doing. But I do not want to be that clinical person anymore because of the experience that I went through. So, like I said, the first place that I worked at, like, because I was newer and because my director was kind of like out there, she was like really out there. Like she would be like, go to Alyssa and ask questions, she's still in school, she blah blah blah, whatever. And that was great. Like I was like, oh, come to me, even though I have no experience and the shortest amount of clean time. Like they understood that I had just come out of school, so they knew that things were different, things were new. And it wasn't the best environment, but that was the only place that I felt like I was being used for what it is that I wanted to be used for, rather than being used and abused within the work. The second place, that place was terrible. People were in and out of that place like crazy, literally in and out like crazy. I met so many people I was there because nobody wanted to work there, because they were just like, when people say that like addiction treatment centers are like cash cows, that place was like that. We would have people in and out. I had caseloads of 40, which is not even allowed in that type of environment. So I did not want to do that anymore. Then I left and I went to the methadone clinic. While I was at the methadone clinic, which if you will go back to one of the other well, I have multiple videos on it, I had a client who committed suicide, and that was honestly the downfall that led to all the issues that I had, because I just kind of felt like, where was my support in a field that's all about support? Like it just didn't make a lot of sense to me. So I ended up leaving there, and then the next place I went to was kind of like the same thing as the other place, where it was just like, get them in, get them into group, get them out. And I was not okay with that. And with the fact that I went through what I went through with the job before, I came in telling them that. Like, people would tell me, Alyssa, like, leave it alone, and I couldn't do it. I came in for my interview, they said, why did you leave the last place you were at? I said, because my client committed suicide and I wasn't happy with the results of it. I needed more support, I needed more guidance, and guess what? They hired me. So they knew what they were getting themselves into. They knew what it is that I was looking for. I didn't get it the way that I wanted it, because at that job, that was like it, you know, like that, I didn't even want to work in the field anymore after what happened to my client, and I felt very much like I was, you know, helpless, hopeless. But the thing is, like, I've done research on, they call it, forgive me for that, I know that people don't really care for the clinical terms, but they call it therapist survivors. So this is a therapist, any kind of therapist, whose client committed suicide. It's a phenomenon because it's not something that everybody has gone through, and there's not a lot of research, because even though we are working in the field of helping people where we are supposed to give support to the outsider, we're not given support, because now we're looked at as being the wrong, you know, we didn't do what it is that we were supposed to do, and it's kind of like, oh, like, I don't want to be associated because of what she did. Like, I don't want to have to deal with that kind of thing. So when I went to the next job, like, I was not playing. I was like, this is what I need, and either you'll give it to me, or the same way as, and for, you know what, at this point, it's just kind of like, I feel like I can say anything because I don't necessarily work in the field anymore, and I feel like there's no reason for me to hide it. The way that some, I'm not going to say all, I'm going to say some of the places that I've worked for, or the places in general, because I've spoken to other people, they kind of feel like, if you're not going to do what it is that I want for you to do, I will find somebody else, less issues, less money, who will do it and not ask any questions. I have that same attitude. I can find somewhere else to go. I have years of experience, and I will give them what it is that they want, what it is that they need. So either you're going to help me so I can help you, or you're going to, you know, let me go, and I'll be able to handle it from there. So that job, it ended up, it was okay. You know, it was towards the end, it was a lot for me to handle. I lost my supervisor. Well, I didn't lose her. She went on maternity leave, and I didn't think that I liked her until she was not there anymore. And then I was like, you know what, the rest of the supervisors, they weren't on the same page. The next supervisor that I had, I knew I didn't like him. I asked them not to give me him, but for some reason they thought that it would be the best idea. So I was talking to him, and like I said, this was an addiction treatment program. Like, that is what we did. We dealt with addicts, we dealt with alcoholics, we did DWI screenings and assessments. We had MICA, but I was not allowed to work with the MICA. They had to go to the licensed clinicians. And so I'm sitting there, they give me a MICA client, knowing what it is that, you know, what it is they expect from me, and then when I'm attempting to give the client what it is that he needs, because he was a very special case, you know, I go to my supervisor and I say, well, you know, such and such thing is going on and I need some guidance. My supervisor really told me, you're a CASAC, deal with your CASAC stuff and let us licensed clinicians deal with the rest. And I was like, so why would you give him to me as a client if you don't think I can handle it? Like, it just felt very rude and very disrespectful. And from there, like I said, you know what, I no longer want to do this. Like, I don't want to work in this field anymore. And then it just so happened that I found a job at the sober house, and that was more along the line of what I wanted to do, you know, work directly with the client. And that's kind of what I'm doing right now. So like, the clinical aspect is completely, it's out. To me, it's completely out, and I will never go back. My CASAC has expired. I purposely let it expire because I do not want to work clinically anymore. And I'm not sure, you know, I've never worked out of New York. New Jersey, they have licensed addiction counselors. I attempted to get a job out there before, but they're also very, I don't know. Personally, I think that, and you look, you guys, if you're still here, because we're 24 minutes into the video, you can tell me if I'm wrong. But when you walk into anything, detox, rehab, outpatient, sober house, if you see me walking in and I say, hey, I'm your therapist, and I'm dressed like this in a shirt and jeans and sneakers, and I say, you know, let's go ahead and go do whatever, and I say, hey, like, I know it's hard, been there myself, but I'm here. You know, we'll do whatever it is that we can. This is what we do. This is what we're here for. Would you look down on me? Versus if you walk into a place where everybody got their hair done and they're, you know, wearing blazers and skirts and, you know, high heels, and you ask me in a fit of rage, oh, what do you know about recovery? And I just look at you like everybody's dumb because I can't answer about knowing anything about recovery because it would be breaking the confidentiality and HIPAA. Like, which person would you prefer to go to? Because I've worked in different places and the clients had more respect for me in a place where I was able to show them who I was and explain to them what it is that I went through and tell them, you know, I'm here for you, I'm going to do what we can, and, you know, this is not a you thing, it's not a me thing, it's a us thing, versus purposely not being able to be honest, not being able to be open. You know, after my client died a year later, I was still really going through it. You know, I was really going through it. I just, it's a lot. It is a lot. You know, I felt very responsible, and I needed a day. I needed a mental health day, and at this point I was working at a different facility, and I was it was intensive, and I was running the intensive group, and I told them, look guys, I'm not going to be here tomorrow. I'm taking a mental health day. And the day after, when I came back, my supervisor was like, you know, you really shouldn't tell them you're taking a mental health day. I was like, can you imagine? We are a mental health facility. Like, this is what we do. And I can't tell the clients that I need a day. Like, do you want them to think that we are robots? And the thing is, like, it's nothing against her personally, because I know it wasn't her. It was coming from her higher ups who got the message from their higher ups. Like, we are not allowed to say anything because it would damage something. And the thing is, like, you know, before, when I was in school, like, that was very much like, you know, when you take the HIPAA classes and all this stuff, you know, they say don't give information because it's not professional and blah blah blah, whatever. But then when I went to the just a few years later, when I went to my master's program, and now I'm getting my PhD, and in that program they're saying that they have done research, and when working with certain populations, it is okay to give information. And I would tell them that, look, like, you guys are so stuck in the Stone Ages. It is not like this anymore. And they would say, oh, but so and so is a licensed clinical social worker, and, you know, when they went to school, yeah, 30 years ago, then that was what's up. But it's not anymore. I was like, people want to know that you're a person. People want to know that you feel. They want to know what it is that you've been through, that you can understand what it is. You know, like, there are certain people who, they're not gonna lie. You know, if somebody is just a licensed mental health counselor or a licensed social worker and they've never been through anything, that they're not gonna sit here and say, oh, you know, I was an addict and now I'm in recovery, blah blah blah, whatever. But I was an addict. Like, I am an addict, you know, I am in recovery, so I shouldn't have to hide it. I don't feel like I should have to. And it just didn't feel right to me. It didn't feel comfortable to me. So I've attempted to put myself into different situations to see where I feel good. And right now, I feel good. I mean, I don't necessarily divulge to my clients, like, this is what I'm going through, and, you know, I can help you, because there's really no reason to, you know? Like, I work with families, and I'm allowed to tell them that I have a family. But because that's what I'm, you know, working with right now, that it's okay. Like, if I was, I feel like if I was working still with addicts, this company that I'm working for would allow for me to say, like, I'm in recovery, this is what I've went through, or I have family who's still an addict and this is what I've gone through, or whatever. Like, that's the type of job that I want to be at, and that is not clinical. So all of that, 20 something minutes to say, this is why I no longer want to do this job. And this is why, if you are in recovery and you are considering working clinical, you should really have a serious conversation with people who work clinical, who would be open and honest in sharing their opinion with you, because just because you want to help people does not mean that that's what you have to do. Right now I'm getting my PhD, and with my PhD I want to become a professor, do research, so I can continue to help people in a way that I would not be able to if I was doing clinical work. And if people would have shared with me in the past, like, look, it's not what you're thinking, this is not what happens, I'm not sure if I would have taken the same path, but definitely it would have been nice to have that information. Being a recovery coach, recovery advocate, that's nice. Granted, it's not going to pay you as much as a licensed clinical social worker, but if you can't be honest with who it is that you are, then who are you in your recovery? Like, I literally almost lost myself. One more thing, and then I'm gonna just stop. But definitely this thing is important. You know, I'm 5.5 years clean. I don't go to meetings, and it's not because I don't like meetings, it's because it's ingrained in my head. I was not allowed to go to meetings because I was a clinician, and you know, at first they told me, oh, you can't go to meetings because if you see so-and-so in a meeting, then they're not going to say that, you know, they have this much time clean and blah, 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 whatever, because they may be lying to you and saying that they have 2 months clean, but the reality is that they have 2 hours clean, you know, and they should have their safe space. So I got that. I was like, all right, safe space, it is what it is. But when I worked at a different place, they wanted for us to go with them to the meetings, and we were able to share it, because then they looked at us and they said, oh, this is, you know, this is what I want to get. This is what I want. I want years of sobriety. Like, I want to know the honest truth. That you may have 10 years. I know somebody who has 30 years and they still struggle. Being sober is not just not using. Like, there's so much stuff that you have to do to continue to maintain your sobriety. And if I'm going to be working, making my living, telling people that they have to do everything that they can, but you're not allowing for me to do everything that I can, that's not a place that I want to work. So please reach out to me, send me your videos, watch some of my videos on YouTube, what are the rest of the videos that I have up. Please, please, please send me videos. I'll take anything, pretty much from anybody. Recovery, mental health, buy my shirt. I have my, I talk for awareness, I talk for acceptance, ask me about my recovery, and yeah, that's it. Okay, thank you guys. Bye.